The story kicks off with a flashy montage of billionaire bosses swooning over stunning secretaries, a high school dropout who got rich before graduating and hired an AI maid, and a billionaire girl entangled in a web of romantic escapades. It poses a provocative question. Would you trade your life if you were drowning in unsolvable problems or just plain tired of it? Enter our protagonist, Zhao Yan, a junior at Binhai University. As he stares at a strange screen offering this life-swapping option, he can't help but think, what the hell is going on? Before he can process it, his chubby and ever-nosy friend Yuan appears, breaking the tension. Yuan asks why Zhao Yan is standing there, glued to his phone like a clueless idiot. He jokes, asking if Zhao Yan is texting that girl again and demands to see the naughty messages he must have sent. Zhao Yan, however, is too distracted by the mysterious screen that only he can see, questioning if he's losing his mind, or if something much bigger is at play. It's Counselor Chen Yuro who calls his name, fixing him with a frosty glare. She immediately identifies Zhao Yan as the rascal who dared to send her that cheeky message. Poor Zhao Yan starts trembling as she scolds him, declaring he'll need to learn a lesson for flirting with her so brazenly. Meanwhile, his so-called friends, Liu Chang and Chen Mao, offer no support, instead joking that at least he lived boldly in his 18 years by flirting his heart out. Zhao Yan can't help but wonder why his friends seem so eager to witness his downfall. Suddenly, that same mysterious window reappears before him, asking if he wants to join the Life Swap Club. What the hell was this thing, and why did it keep showing up? With his life already spiraling into chaos, Zhao Yan hesitates but considers the offer. How much worse could it get? Trembling, he decides to press yes. The moment his finger hits the button, blue energy swirls around him, and in an instant, he's transported to a completely different place. At first, he thinks it's a dream, but reality quickly sets in. This must be the infamous Life Swap Club. Still skeptical, Zhao Yan asks if this life-swapping thing is for real. Su confirms it, adding that everyone there can view information about potential partners and decide whom to swap lives with. She gives examples. A famous singer named Liu Mang, with millions of fans, is swapping lives with Mo Qingwu, a renowned fashion entrepreneur. Even a celebrity pet, internationally recognized, is part of the swaps. Su further explains that once he finds a partner, he can see their detailed information, set the swap duration, and customize flexible rules. Zhao Yan, however, starts to overthink. If he had a girlfriend, wouldn't swapping lives feel like being cheated on? He quickly brushes it off, realizing it doesn't matter since he doesn't have one anyway. Su clarifies that at the time of the contract, they can limit memories and actions during the swap. Once the contract is signed, no one can break the terms. Zhao Yan asks when he can return to the real world, and Su tells him he just has to think about the place he wants to go, and it will appear. She then encourages him to find someone willing to swap lives. Zhao Yan laughs nervously, saying he might be handsome, but who would want to swap lives with a broke guy like him? Despite his doubts, he makes his profile public. The moment his profile is visible, everyone in the club is shocked. His details reveal that he's unemployed, earns no money, and is drowning in problems. To his surprise, a crowd begins smiling and buzzing with excitement. Suddenly, a flood of offers comes in. Some are from second-generation rich heirs, world champion athletes, famous movie stars, and even influencers with over 200,000 followers, all eager to swap lives with him. Zhao Yan is completely baffled by his sudden popularity. Why would so many people want to swap with a normal guy like him? Overwhelmed, he starts backing away from the crowd, realizing he needs to be more cautious in this bizarre world. 3 minutes later, he calls someone to chat. The person introduces himself as Chen Han and says it would be an honor to be the first swap partner with him. That sentence sounded a bit weird, didn't it? Zhao Yan sees that this guy is 32 years old and the most famous entrepreneur in the entire city of Binhai. Out of curiosity, he asks why so many people were interested in swapping places with his ordinary life. Chen Han explains that the most interesting people are those who are either extremely capable or extremely messed up. That's why people like Zhao Yan, who have simple life problems, are quite popular. Zhao Yan quickly realizes that he's popular because his life is a mess. Chen Han explains that by making someone else's life better and helping them, they earn life points. These points can be used to buy anything from the club store. Zhao Yan asks if it's really anything, saying that's incredible. Chen Han confirms it's truly anything. After all, there's a reason he made billions at such a young age. However, Zhao Yan just wants to live the life of a billionaire and not deal with solving problems. So, he asks what happens if he doesn't resolve the issues he's supposed to handle in the other person's life. Chen Han says he just wouldn't earn any points and asks if they can sign the contract already. Zhao Yan agrees, saying, "If that's the case, let's do it." The girl appears between the two and says that once everything is confirmed, they just need to say main world. Zhao Yan sees that Chen Han has a huge list of problems, but he's too lazy to read through it all. Chen Han mentions it's quite the coincidence that the Chen Han issue is a problem in Zhao Yan's life because she's his sister. Zhao Yan is shocked by the coincidence. At that moment, the assistant arrives and tells both of them to close their eyes and get ready. With that, the two are teleported. Someone is calling for President Chen, telling him to stop scaring her. Zhao Yan slowly opens his eyes with a pounding headache. As soon as he sees a large figure in front of him, he wonders where he is. Secretary Xu Shui thanks him for finally waking up. Zhao Yan tries to understand what's going on. The life swap had just started, but it was already way too intense. Xu Shui asks what he was doing. She had knocked on the door for a long time and no one answered, which scared her. Our protagonist says he understands, but questions why she took off some of his clothes and a little bit of hers. Perhaps due to the body swap, Zhao Yan was still feeling a bit uncomfortable. Xu Shui explains that his body was so cold, she tried to share some warmth to see if it would wake him up. Zhao Yan starts recovering some memories. His 24-year-old secretary is dangerous and has been trying to seduce Chen Han for a long time. He then says they can continue. She asks, "Continue what?" But the rascal is already enjoying this billionaire life. She approaches, saying that now that he's allowed her, she won't hold back. However, just then, someone knocks on the door, calling for the president. Blushing, Zhao Yan tells them to wait, but the secretary had already entered. She shyly says the shareholders' meeting is about to begin. Realizing the situation, she apologizes, saying she thought he was getting ready for the meeting. Zhao Yan explains that the room was so hot, he had to take off his shirt, and Xu Shui helped wipe his sweat. The secretary says that's a very sensible thing to do. She places the documents on the table and says she's leaving. She runs out, slamming the door behind her. Xu says she got a fright, and Zhao Yan smirks, telling her they'll finish this later. He puts on his shirt, saying it's time to handle some business. Based on Chen Han's memories, this upcoming shareholders' meeting is a ploy to remove him from his position. However, since this isn't his life, Zhao Yan decides to have some fun with it. As the meeting begins, the shareholders grumble about how Chen Han has been neglecting his duties. Just then, Zhao Yan bursts in, kicking the door open, making strange noises, and walking like a fool. The shareholders are confused by his antics as he flops into a chair, complaining about his aching back. One of the shareholders, He Ming, speaks up, urging him to take the meeting seriously. Zhao Yan immediately recognizes He Ming as the scumbag orchestrating the plan to oust him. When He Ming criticizes his behavior, Zhao Yan brazenly jumps onto the table, asking, "What are you going to do about it?" He Ming, annoyed, accuses Zhao Yan of mismanaging the company, citing the failed deal with the Ben Hai Group as proof he's unfit to be president. Zhao Yan recalls that the deal was sabotaged by a mysterious competitor offering 5% more, and He Ming's involvement makes the situation even more suspicious. Stepping down from the table, Zhao Yan reminds everyone that their wealth exists because of his hard work. Now, because of a single failed negotiation, they want to remove him. He Ming, unfazed, demands a vote to strip him of his position. The shareholders raise their hands, and He Ming declares Zhao Yan's presidency as good as over. Smirking, Zhao Yan declares that if he's removed, he'll sell all his shares and dismantle the company. The shareholders, terrified of losing their investments, quickly backpedal, pleading with him not to destroy the successful enterprise over one mistake. Zhao Yan mocks their sudden change of heart, suggesting that He Ming must be the one under too much stress. He proposes a vote to let He Ming take a break. The shareholders agree, citing He Ming's erratic behavior. Furious, He Ming trembles with rage, calling them hypocrites. Zhao Yan instructs Secretary Shu to prepare the necessary documents, and within minutes the vote is finalized. He Ming loses his position, and the police escort him out. Zhao Yan sarcastically tells the others to remember him forever in their hearts, as He Ming spits up blood in anger. Once things settle, Zhao Yan announces that the vice president role is now vacant and encourages the shareholders to prove their worth. Their greed makes them eager to comply. Meanwhile, one of them mentions that the Shanghong company was responsible for sabotaging the Ben Hai deal. Feigning confidence, Zhao Yan promises to handle it, though in truth, he's clueless and more interested in enjoying his newfound luxury. Declaring the meeting over, he tells Su to cancel his schedule for the next 2 days and investigate Shanghong. Shu, obedient as ever, agrees. When Zhao Yan comments on her behavior, she wonders if her charm is finally working on him. However, Zhao Yan quickly suggests they find a discreet place to discuss their relationship in depth, leaving her flustered as she exits. Our boy's eyes are on the prize. This billionaire life is turning out to be a blast. The scene shifts to the International Hotel in the city of Binhai. A red car zooms into view. Of course, who else could it be but our boy, now living it up? He's headed to the fanciest hotel in the city, where everything screams luxury, but also expense. Then again, it's not the hotel's fault it's pricey. It's his fault for having been poor in the first place. Feeling like a king, he tosses his keys to the chauffeur and strides in, ready to enjoy the high life. As soon as he enters, the girl at the front desk greets him, asking if it'll be the usual. But our boy decides to shake things up, saying he wants to order for himself today. At that very moment, someone calls him brother. Turning around, he spots the protagonist and his sister, who was none other than Euro. Shocked by this awful coincidence, our boy stammers that he's just here for a bite to eat. But before he can think of an escape, the Chen Han, now in his body, confidently introduces himself as Zhao Yan, a student, which impresses the sister. Our boy thought this was the perfect moment to take some revenge now that their bodies were swapped. Smirking, he introduced himself as Euro's brother, Chen Han, and began saying mean things about her. He claimed she was spoiled, had a bad temper, didn't understand human emotions, loved to cause trouble, and was downright ruthless. Satisfied with his little stunt and wearing a big grin, he excused himself to enjoy his luxurious dinner, leaving Euro utterly puzzled by her brother's strange behavior. Chen Han, now helpless in the body of our loser protagonist, was left utterly roasted to the core. Struggling to salvage the situation, he tried to comfort Euro, assuring her that those harsh words weren't meant for her, but for Chen Han himself. He explained that she was so beautiful and smart that her brother must have been trying to scare off potential suitors. Flattered by his perspective, Euro smiled and even admitted that his words had moved her a little. Meanwhile, in the VIP room, the evening is in full swing as they call for President Chen. Surrounded by luxury, the girls gush over how delicious dinner must be. Our boy, reveling in the attention, smugly says it's not bad, but could be even better if two people could earn 10,000 yuan by doing a dance. Without hesitation, the dancers spring into action, showing just how easily money makes people obey. Watching them, our boy marvels at the power of wealth and wishes his old friends could see the incredible life he's living now. One of the girls approaches him, noticing he's deep in thought, and asks what's on his mind. He replies he's feeling a bit tired and could use her help to relax. Thinking he's hinting at something spicy, she leans in, only for him to clarify that he just wants to fetch a flute and play some calming music. The crazy girls, disappointed, sigh that they'd hoped it was another chance to earn money. Meanwhile, back at Manhwa University, the friends asked what had happened after talking to the Ice Queen. Chen Han, in the body of our protagonist, replied that it was brave of them to ask, considering how they'd messed things up for him. Just then, someone passing by asked if that wasn't a Rolls-Royce parked at the entrance. Chen Han was completely confused by the question. At the front, a bunch of cars arrived and everyone was shocked by the amount of money parked there. The license plate didn't lie. It was our protagonist who had brought the fool's car. The guy even brought an entire entourage with him. The friends recognized Chen Han as a famous entrepreneur and wondered why he was heading their way. The girls were all impressed, saying he was so tall and handsome. Meanwhile, the real Chen Han, still stuck in our protagonist's body, wanted to know what that kid was planning. Our boy walked up to his own body, stopped in front of the poor guy, and kneeled, saying he couldn't manage the company anymore and needed him to come back. The real owner of the body was baffled, wondering what kind of ridiculous drama this kid was planning. Chen Han, now stuck in the body of the protagonist, was furious. He had negotiated countless times in clubs and business circles, but had never encountered someone so shameless. Meanwhile, the protagonist's friends started yelling at him, accusing Zhao Yan of pretending to be poor all this time. They grabbed the poor guy and began shaking him, demanding to know why he had been hiding his wealth. The chubby friend, however, saw this as an opportunity, suggesting that now they knew the truth, Zhao Yan should treat them generously. Our boy, still riding high on his success, was absolutely thrilled by the turn of events. Meanwhile, Chen Han, trapped in the protagonist's body, was seething with rage, baffled by how this lunatic was manipulating everyone and complicating the situation further. Our boy reveled in the attention, imagining how everyone now saw him as an incredible and influential person. However, Euro, observing the scene, found it all rather strange. She began to think that this version of Zhao Yan was far more mysterious than she had previously assumed. At that moment, Chen Han, in the protagonist's body, begrudgingly admitted, "You really are a rascal," as our boy urged him to hurry back to the company and inherit everything. Chen Han's patience snapped, and he told the protagonist to get lost. Left with no choice, our boy played the fool and walked away, leaving the real Chen Han fuming. He couldn't fathom how this arrogant kid had completely ignored the rules of proper negotiation. Watching his irresponsible behavior, he couldn't begin to imagine what damage had been done to his body's reputation. The friends, on the other hand, were all awestruck, marveling at how the city's most influential entrepreneur seemed to be obeying one of their own friends. Back at home, Chen Han's sister, curious about her brother's earlier behavior, approached him and asked why he had shown so much respect to Zhao Yan. Our boy, quick on his feet, spun a story, claiming that Zhao Yan was a genius who had been secretly giving him valuable business tips, which were the real reason behind his success. The sister, stunned, admitted she had always thought her brother was the genius, but now it seemed like Zhao Yan had been the mastermind all along. Piecing together the company's rapid rise and Zhao Yan's age, she calculated that he must have been a prodigy since he was 15 years old. She could hardly believe there was someone so extraordinary in the world. Intrigued, she decided to confront Zhao Yan directly and approached him, eager to learn more about this mysterious friend. However, our boy, sensing the danger of his lie unraveling, panicked. He hastily excused himself, claiming he had to attend a charity auction and had no time to talk. Terrified of being caught, he bolted in a fluster, leaving his sister sitting there, baffled by his strange behavior. In the next scene, our boy is seen speeding through the city, clearly in a rush. Beside him is Secretary Shu, who, with a mix of surprise and excitement, comments that she never imagined she'd be invited to a gala dinner by his side. However, our boy, maintaining a cold and professional demeanor, curtly responds that she's there to work, not for leisure. Without missing a beat, he shifts the conversation, asking how the investigation is progressing. Secretary Shu, snapping into business mode, informs him that she discovered some crucial information. 80% of the company's shares are owned by He Ming's younger brother, clearly as a front for He Ming, the same man who was fired earlier. Meanwhile, he, or rather, the body he currently occupies, Chen Han, owns the remaining 20%. He praised her work, and at the charity dinner, our boy walked through the lavish venue, piecing together the chaotic plans his counterpart had set in motion. Guests surrounded him with admiration, commenting on his impressive appearance and presence. Amid the mingling, he was introduced to a man who had been part of a significant business deal that the original Chen Han had failed to close. As the donations segment began, guests offered contributions ranging from 500,000 to 5 million. Then, in a dramatic display, our boy stunned the room by announcing a $30 million donation, attributing it to the enigmatic Mr. Zhao Yan. The room fell silent, jaws dropping at the audacious move. Guests immediately began whispering, speculating about who Zhao Yan was and whether he was the real force behind Chen Han's apparent success. Secretary Shu added to the drama by cheekily calling him Daddy while he basked in the attention. The announcer formally recognized Zhao Yan as the largest donor of the night, which caught the attention of a bald businessman who had previously dismissed Chen Han. Believing Zhao Yan must be immensely powerful, the bald man approached, hoping to salvage the billion-dollar contract. Our boy played it cool, pointing out that his donation represented only 5% of the deal's value and framing it as a calculated investment. The bald man, eager to repair relations, suggested they finalize their partnership immediately. However, our boy, with a flair for drama, proposed a revenge plan instead. He suggested letting the rival company continue preparing its grand ceremony for the deal, only to pull the rug out from under them by announcing a new partnership on the event day. The bald man, intrigued by the audacious scheme, reluctantly agreed, seeing no better option. They sealed the agreement with a toast, much to the amusement of Secretary Shu, who teased him as the mastermind of the moment. As the evening continued, several founders expressed interest in meeting the mysterious Zhao Yan, whose name now carried an air of legend. Our boy brushed off their curiosity, claiming Zhao Yan disliked being disturbed, further enhancing the aura of mystique. The crowd, awed by this fabricated genius, left the event more convinced than ever that Chen Han was a man of extraordinary influence. And like the shameless bastard our boy was, he leaned on the girl's chest and made her feed him. "You guys must be jealous by now, haha." Meanwhile, someone kicked a table. It was the fool He Ming, who had arrived home fuming with rage after losing his position. His brother-in-law, Zhou Ping, tried to calm him down, assuring him that soon enough he would become the president of Changhong. Zhou Ping added that tomorrow was the day to sign the contract, a perfect opportunity to reveal the truth and humiliate Chen Han in front of everyone. He Ming, finding the idea appealing, suggested they invite the press so the public could witness Chen Han's downfall firsthand. With a smug grin, he vowed that tomorrow, That scoundrel Chen Han had better be ready for utter embarrassment. The next day, bottles and clothes were scattered across the floor as our boy woke up, groaning about how much he worked during the day but even harder at night. Fortunately for him, this guy didn't have a girlfriend or wife, so he could do whatever he pleased without worrying. He lightly poked Shu's face, urging her to wake up since it was time for work. She clung to him, asking if after yesterday's successful negotiation, he was ready to humiliate the traitor He Ming. He smirked and said yes. Yesterday had been a lucky day. At school, news had already spread that Chen Han had donated 30 million. The real owner of the body was far from happy. He was racking his brain trying to figure out how to fix this mess. This scoundrel had truly gone overboard. The classmates were in awe, fawning over him, having learned that the donation had been made in the name of the Chen family. But he felt nothing but despair. Chen Han in Zhao Yan's body was visibly going crazy with his wage actions. While his classmates were going yala-la-la-las, he was bowing inside. He had never donated more than 5 million in his entire life, and now this rascal had spent 30 million in one go. Even the professor had heard about it and said he should offer some encouragement to the class. Reluctantly, he muttered that it was just a small contribution and didn't need to be mentioned. The professor, inspired, threw his arms up, declaring him truly a kind and noble person. The whole classroom erupted in applause while the real Chen Han internally cursed Zhao Yan, labeling him a shameless scoundrel full of tricks. Meanwhile, his sister seemed thoroughly impressed, commenting on how much kinder Zhao Yan was compared to her brother. Chen Han caught the admiring look in her eyes and began to panic, wondering if this girl had fallen for Zhao Yan. Meanwhile, our boy was sneezing repeatedly. Apparently some bastard was cursing him. Shu was startled, asking if he was okay and wondering if it was her fault for stealing the blanket last night. But our boy said it must just be some beautiful girl thinking a lot about him. She pinched his cheeks, telling him to stop talking nonsense. He replied that he was just joking and told her to stop being jealous and keep a positive attitude. She stormed off, thinking that last night he hadn't dared to say anything she didn't like. At that moment, she took a call. It seemed Zhou Ping, He Ming's brother-in-law, was about to arrive. She left the tea prepared and said she would leave first. Apparently, it was our boy who had asked Zhou Ping to come. Zhou Ping then asked why he wanted to see him. Our boy got straight to the point and said he knew Xia was holding 80% of the shares that belonged to He Ming, and asked what Zhou Ping thought about making those shares his own. Zhou Ping told him to keep dreaming if his plan was to stir discord between him and He Ming, but Zhao Yan said he didn't need to stir discord since it seemed He Ming didn't trust him, as he hadn't given him any shares. Our boy asked what would happen if He Ming suddenly disappeared and lost everything. Zhou Ping said that if that happened, all the shares would go to his sister. Our boy then asked if, with He Ming out of the picture, he couldn't convince his own brother. Zhou Ping knew this was possible. However, he wanted to know why our boy wanted to help him. The protagonist simply said he hated traitors and asked if Zhou Ping really wanted to be He Ming's dog forever. Zhou Ping knew that for the last 10 years, he'd been obeying this guy but hadn't made any progress in life. It was long overdue. He decided to accept the deal to gain the 80%. Our boy then wished them both a successful partnership. However, what Zhou Ping didn't know was that our boy had been recording everything. Now that he had this video of Zhou Ping, he had him in his hands. At that moment, Shu rushed in saying they had a problem. The video of them entering the hotel last night had already been posted online. Our boy asked what the problem was, saying that after a business discussion at night, he had simply paid for his employee to stay in a hotel so she could rest. They reviewed everything that had happened. Shu asked if his wife would believe that excuse. Suddenly, our boy was in trouble and asked what wife she was talking about. Shu yelled, saying it was obvious, the wife he had always had. Our boy was shocked and wondered why he had no memory of being married. He figured there must have been some rule in the contract that prevented him from having memories of this woman, but then thought, why should I care about this anyway? It's not my life. Trembling, he told Shu to relax, saying it wasn't a big deal. He even started dancing anxiously, eager to get back to his own body and leave this mess for Chen Han to fix. Shu then said that, given the situation, his wife likely wouldn't want her to be his secretary anymore. He reassured Shu not to worry about her job, promising to recommend her to Xian. At that moment, a call from the wife came in. He told himself not to panic, but the poor guy was trembling all over as he answered, nervously asking, "What's up?" The wife immediately scolded him, accusing him of always offering to pay for her trips abroad. He angrily shouted that he was in an important meeting and they'd talk in person later. Shu, watching him tremble, was impressed at how thoroughly controlled this guy was by his wife. Meanwhile, Zhao Yan was coughing at that time. The scene then shifts back to Chen Han's mansion where his sister arrives home. She mentions she wanted to know a bit more about Zhao Yan. Chen Han, surprised, asked why she was so curious about the boy. She had just returned home and was already asking about him. Was she perhaps interested in him? She denied it, saying she only wanted to know more about her student. She told him to stop stalling and spill what he knew about the boy. Sighing, Chen Han described Zhao Yan as extremely intelligent, well-mannered, aesthetically fit, and a diligent worker. His sister teased him, saying it looked like he was trying to win Zhao Yan's favor by flattering him so much. Chen Han retorted, saying he'd never do something like that. He was just being honest. Zhao Yan truly was amazing. Then he asked about his wife, noting that she'd been away since they'd fought and she'd gone to her family's house. Feeling desolate, he lamented the mess he was now in, even as his wife was away. Just then, Chen Han received a call asking if he'd attend the Changhong Company's contract signing ceremony. Excited, he eagerly agreed. They were clearly dying to show off to him. The day of the big ceremony finally arrives. Shu, standing next to our boy, asks why he wanted to attend Chang Hong's event. He explains with a sly smile that a great show was about to happen. As the event begins, everyone is whispering, wondering why the Hanjiang Group representatives are there. Then the announcer invites Chang Hong's president, He Ming, to the stage. He Ming confidently walks in, welcoming everyone. The crowd immediately recognizes him as a former employee of the Hanjiang Group. During his speech, He Ming emphasizes that the most special person present is none other than the current president of Chen Han Group, our boy. Smiling, our boy simply replies that he's looking forward to He Ming's performance. At that moment, He Ming introduces Mr. Liu, who was responsible for negotiating their big deal. Mr. Liu takes the microphone, announcing that he had indeed made a great deal, but with the Hanjiang Group. Confused, He Ming leans in and corrects him, saying the deal was made with the Chang Hong Group. The crowd stirs, puzzled by the contradiction. Did Mr. Liu mix up the names, or did he truly sign with Hanjiang? Realizing the tension, Mr. Liu clarifies for the crowd, loudly declaring that the Binhai Group made the deal with the Hanjiang Group, not Chang Hong. The room erupts in whispers as people begin to speculate that He Ming has been outplayed. Shu and our boy are quietly laughing, amused by how the situation is unfolding. They never expected He Ming to react so poorly. Frustrated, He Ming turns to Mr. Liu and warns that he'll lose all credibility if he continues this charade. Calmly, Mr. Liu responds, reminding him that their deal was only verbal. There's no written contract, so he's not risking anything. Now it's time for the president of Chen Han Group to take the stage. Our boy spins around dramatically and confidently introduces himself, walking right up to He Ming's face. He mockingly tells everyone to applaud the man who sponsored this day, his voice dripping with sarcasm. He adds that his respect for He Ming is as endless as the amount of money he's been stealing from companies. The shareholders in the audience, sensing a major scandal, are already plotting to pull their investments. Angrily, He Ming denies the accusations, calling them slander. However, before he can say more, Zhao Ping steps forward, loudly declaring that the authorities already have all the data. At that moment, the police arrive, announcing that He Ming is under arrest for multiple frauds. As they handcuff him, He Ming curses Zhao Ping, calling him a wolf in sheep's clothing. But Zhao Ping, unfazed, thinks to himself that He Ming only has himself to blame for his dishonesty. Just then, our boy gleefully announces to the room that the mastermind behind everything was none other than Mr. Zhao Yan. The crowd begins murmuring, skeptical at how Zhao Yan always seems to be behind everything. Finally, our boy reassures everyone that he'll cover all expenses for the event and urges them to have a good time. The room, still buzzing with shock, begins to relax as the scandalous drama comes to an end. The scene shifts back to the Hanjiang group, where our boy is clearly enjoying his victory, wearing a smug expression. Zhao Ping, now cornered, speaks up, stating that their cooperation has ended and asking what else there is to discuss. Our boy raises an eyebrow and questions what Zhao Ping means by ended, when, in his view, it's only just begun. He slides over a video for Zhao Ping to watch. The video reveals Zhao Ping in a private moment, vowing to screw over He Ming so the shares would transfer to his sister, leaving Zhao Ping with complete control over the company. Zhao Ping, flustered, demands to know what our boy intends to do with this video. Calmly, our boy asks if Zhao Ping honestly believes his sister would let him run Changhong after seeing such a recording. With a smirk, he adds that Zhao Ping might find himself demoted from Mr. Zhao Ping, president, to just Mr. Ping, reduced to stealing bikes to make ends meet. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Zhao Ping knows he's in trouble. Desperate, he asks what our boy, the scoundrel, wants. Our boy responds, laying it out clearly. Zhao Ping will have to transfer all of Changhong's shares, but he clarifies that the shares wouldn't go to him. They'd go to Zhao Yan. Naturally, our boy expects a financial reward in return. Trapped, Zhao Ping understands he's gone from a sinking ship with He Ming to an even worse situation now. But with no support left in the city, his options are limited. Begrudgingly, he asks what's required of him. Our boy explains that Zhao Ping's only job is to get his sister to sign the contract, finalizing the transfer. Zhao Ping, still skeptical, insists on seeing some money up front, reminding our boy that the people in this city are cunning. Without hesitation, our boy pulls out a card loaded with 10 million and casually reveals the last 6 digits as the password. Zhao Ping eyes the card, asking if our boy isn't worried he might take the money and vanish. Chuckling, our boy warns him that such a move would not sit well with Zhao Yan, and dealing with him would be a mistake Zhao Ping wouldn't want to make. Before leaving, our boy adds that if Zhao Ping does his job well, Zhao Yan might even meet him personally, a rare and golden opportunity. As our boy walks out, he reflects on how interesting life has become. After all, he's about to play a key role in the transfer of a multi-billion-dollar company. Meanwhile, Shu asks how he managed to convince Zhao Ping. Smirking, our boy credits Zhao Yan's planning for the success of his scheme. Shu then surprises him by announcing that from now on, she'll be working for Zhao Yan as well. Excited, she adds that she'll also help manage Changhong, jokingly saying she's ready to work 72 hours a week, or even 69 hours, followed by a cheeky grin, leaving our boy momentarily speechless. At Changhong, a tense meeting is underway. The general manager, expecting the company to be handed over to Zhao Ping's sister, is blindsided when the doors swing open, and our boy barges in, unapologetically pushing everyone aside. The guard, flustered, follows closely behind, apologizing for failing to stop the madman. The room falls silent as our boy and the general manager lock eyes. With a raised brow, the manager demands to know why Mr. Chen is interrupting his meeting. Calmly, our boy smirks and replies, "You don't need to worry about this meeting anymore since it's no longer your concern." With a snap of his fingers, he signals to Shu, who steps forward and hands over the paperwork. Our boy announces, "All the shares of Changhong have been transferred by Mr. Zhao Yan, and I'm here as his representative." A murmur ripples through the room as the weight of his words sinks in. The staff quickly realize that the transfer means one thing: they have a new boss. Without skipping a beat, our boy declares, "From this moment, Miss Shu will be running this place." The room erupts in gasps as Shu, beaming with pride, steps forward. Her glowing expression fills the space as our boy officially introduces her as the new vice president of Changhong. Turning to Shu, he encourages her, "Do your best. I'll bring in some elite personnel to assist you, and in a few days you'll get to meet Zhao Yan, so don't mess up and embarrass yourself." Fully rejuvenated and bursting with determination, Shu vows, "I'll do my very best." At that moment, our boy's phone starts ringing. He answers casually, only to hear the sharp voice of his wife, who announces that she's arriving tomorrow and demands an explanation for his recent antics. Without hesitation, our boy, unbothered, responds coldly, "I've never explained myself to anyone in my life, and tomorrow won't be the first time." As he hangs up, a sly grin crosses his face. Thinking to himself, he muses, "Helping Chen Han assert some authority in his marriage? Consider that a favor. No thanks necessary." Got it. Here's the fixed version with Chen Han instead of Keenan. A week passed, marking the end of the first life swap, and our boy found himself back in his original body. As the events of the past week swirled in his mind, he felt a mix of confusion and satisfaction. Suddenly, Chen Han stormed in, his face a mask of fury. Without missing a beat, our boy greeted him with a smug smile. "It's been a while since we've seen each other," he said casually. Chen Han, clearly annoyed, shot back, "In all my time here, I've never met someone as shameless as you." Taking it as a compliment, our boy grinned wider. "Thanks. Even my friends say I'm a great actor." Chen Han wasn't amused and cut straight to the point, asking about our boy's time in the mysterious Life Swap Club. "How many members have you swapped lives with?" But our boy waved off the question, instead teasingly asking Chen Han to share his experiences at the club. Chen Han, still irritated, told him to stay out of it. "I'm going to check my points," he said, adding, "There's no need for you to tag along. You haven't completed anything." Our boy, persistent as ever, followed anyway, claiming he just wanted to take a look. When they arrived, a treasure chest-like display appeared, filled with floating, glowing items. One piece of equipment immediately caught our boy's attention. Chen Han, noticing his fascination, explained, "Yeah, there's a lot of amazing treasures here, but you're new, so you don't have access to any of them." Chen Han revealed that he had resolved our boy's life issues during the swap, not only fixing the problems with his sister, but also turning our boy into a campus celebrity. His efforts earned him 5 points, a milestone he hadn't achieved in years. Still curious, our boy asked how to check his own rewards. Chen Han dismissed him, saying, "Don't bother. It's not worth it. You probably didn't earn anything." But our boy, ever the optimist, countered, "The world's full of surprises. You never know." At that moment, Chen Han froze, stunned. He turned to our boy and asked, "Wait, are you really a beginner?" Shocked in doubt if he is even a beginner. "You just completed a billion-dollar deal, removed a spy from the company, and somehow earned 10 points. Chen Han, now incredulous, muttered, "I've worked my butt off for years just to earn this much, and you did it as a student?" Still calm, our boy shrugged. "Chen Han's life was easy for me. I didn't even have to try. Living with billions, way easier than being a broke kid." Chen Han, grudgingly impressed, admitted, "You really are some kind of genius." As our boy basked in his success, a chubby club member chimed in, dismissing the hype. "It's just 10 points, no big deal." But Chen Han corrected him. "This kid's a beginner. He not only closed a billion-dollar negotiation, but also changed lives in the process." The chubby guy, now confused, admitted, "Okay, Maybe this scoundrel beginner is something else. Our boy, feeling on top of the world, quipped, "Those challenges were so easy, I solved them without even breaking a sweat. All I wanted was to enjoy the billionaire lifestyle. I didn't think it'd be this easy to fix everything." As he pondered his success, Chen Han approached him one last time, grinding his teeth kicked. "Fuck off," he said before walking away. Left to his thoughts, our boy grinned, wondering, what can I buy with 10 points? He ignored him, walked away, showing him a finger. Just then, Administrator Sue appeared, her presence commanding attention. "Well, with 10 points, you can get quite a bit," she said, congratulating our boy with a smile. "I never expected someone like you to be so talented." Brushing off the compliment with his usual nonchalance, our boy replied, "I need to get to know this club better." Administrator Sue nodded. "I'll give you a tour. After that, you can decide what to buy." The building turned out to be more than just a hub for life-swapping adventures. It had a cafeteria, living quarters, and staff areas, all organized and functional. When they reached the item room, Administrator Sue explained that members could search for specific items. If an item wasn't visible, they could ask the staff for assistance. Eager to explore, our boy wandered into the item room. After browsing through the floating treasures and glowing artifacts, he decided to use his points to strengthen his body. With little hesitation, he spent 5 points on a body enhancement potion, a shimmering vial that promised to elevate his physical capabilities. He held the potion in his hands, feeling a thrill of anticipation. If this is just the beginning, what else can I unlock in this place? Back at home, Chen Han grabbed his phone, ready to call his wife. He figured she must have cooled down after their last argument. However, to his surprise, her number was no longer in his contacts. Fortunately, he remembered it and dialed, feeling a bit awkward. "How are you?" he asked cautiously. Immediately, she scolded him, accusing him of blocking her number and reminding him of his public betrayal with his secretary. Before he could defend himself, she hung up, saying she'd deal with him when she arrived the next day. Chen Han clenched his fists, muttering, "This is all Zhao Yan's fault." He called back, attempting an apology, but his wife cut him off. "Where's that courage you had when you claimed you'd never explain yourself to anyone?" she snapped before hanging up again. Fuming, Chen Han swore he'd get revenge on that scoundrel Zhao Yan. His sister entered the room, startled by his yelling. "Why are you shouting in the middle of the night?" she asked. He grabbed her shoulders. "Tell me, have I done anything wrong to deserve this?" She reassured him that he hadn't, though she warned, "At most, your wife might kill you tomorrow." Chen Han pressed her for details, and she reluctantly explained, "The problem isn't small. You went to a hotel with your secretary and the photos went viral." At that moment, the gravity of the situation hit him like a truck. He paled, his mind racing. "You look like you need a psychiatrist," she teased. "I need a sword," he muttered, "to deal with Zhao Yan." His sister looked puzzled. "What does Zhao Yan have to do with this? You told me to trust him and even invest in him." Meanwhile, Zhao Yan was on campus, looking sharp and composed despite the chaos unfolding elsewhere. Strolling near a field, he noticed some mischief in the background. A couple was startled by his sudden presence. "Relax," he said. "I'm leaving." Suddenly, a group of 3 friends ran past him, shouting, "Xiaoyou's class is starting! We can't miss it!" Zhao Yan smirked, realizing that Chen Han's brother must have been covering for him all along. The friends arrived out of breath. One of them blurted out the truth. The boy was out in the woods, watching a couple have fun. But Yuru, Chen Han's sister, dismissed the claim. "He's not the type to do that," she insisted. The friends exchanged glances. "You're delusional," one muttered. Yuru shot them a glare, silencing their protests. Just then, Zhao Yan strolled up casually. "Why's no one going inside?" he asked, looking completely relaxed. The group gawked. "You're late, man! You're about to get punished!" He shrugged and walked into the classroom. Inside, the Ice Queen immediately confronted him. "Why are you late?" Unfazed, he simply replied, "Overslept." Surprisingly, she softened. "Don't stay up so late studying. Get inside. Class is about to start." The friends were dumbfounded. "Why is she being so gentle with that scoundrel?" one whispered. Zhao Yan just smiled, enjoying every bit of the confusion he caused. At that moment, Chen Han received a call from Secretary Shu. She sounded concerned, but he reassured her, "Don't worry. I'll visit the new company tomorrow." Hanging up, he sighed, realizing the storm that was brewing. He needed to start protecting himself because things were about to get chaotic. The guys grumbled about Chen Han being on his phone during class, but the teacher brushed it off, saying his grades were exceptional enough to allow it. Chen Han confidently approached her, mentioning that, as a very studious young man, he had some questions to ask her that night. His friends exchanged glances, whispering about how he wasn't even trying to hide his intentions anymore. But the teacher politely declined, explaining that her brother wanted to talk to her that evening. Chen Han smirked and casually replied that her brother would probably be too busy to have a conversation. Surprised but intrigued, she agreed to meet later if her brother ended up occupied. Meanwhile, at the Hanjiang group, Chen Han arrived, nervously hoping that Zhao Yan hadn't caused too much havoc. After greeting the secretaries and finding everything seemingly normal, he felt a moment of relief, but that didn't last long. A girl entered his office and he asked her about Shu's whereabouts. She explained that Shu, along with several authorized personnel, had gone to another company. Alarmed, Chen Han pressed further, and she revealed they had gone to the Chang Hong group, taking the sales and future negotiations departments with them. Chen Han's face darkened. Furious, he slammed his fist on the desk, realizing Zhao Yan's cunning schemes had gone even further than he anticipated. Shilu tried to caution him about the escalating situation, but he abruptly fired her, offering her a year's salary and ordering her to leave. Just then, Chen Han received a call from his wife, announcing her arrival at the airport. Panic-stricken, he dashed out of the office, muttering that after he handled this mess, he'd deal with that cursed kid, Zhao Yan. At the Chang Hong group, Zhao Yan arrived at his new company, casually stepping out of a taxi. Shu and the secretaries were waiting, surprised by his modest entrance. Many commented on his humility, calling him a man of the people for not flaunting wealth. Shu introduced herself and offered to give him a tour of the company. During the walkthrough, she asked if he had any immediate instructions. Zhao Yan told her to buy him a house and a car under the company's name, revealing he no longer needed to hide his wealth due to a family rule tied to his recent birthday. Shu smiled, impressed by his confidence, but informed him of an urgent issue. The Chang Hong group was in crisis. She explained that their company's foundation depended on support from Chen Han's firm, which had just cut off all assistance. Zhao Yan quickly realized Chen Han was retaliating. Unfazed, Zhao Yan calmly remarked that every problem had a solution and asked Shu if they still had the funds to buy the house. She confirmed that they'd manage until next month. Zhao Yan reassured her, asking her to deposit $1 million into his account and promised to resolve the crisis. Shu was amazed by his composure and noted, "You're about to lose the company, and yet you're this calm." Zhao Yan smiled and replied, "It's just business." The fun part is turning the tables. At the airport, Chen Han nervously waits for his wife's arrival, fully aware that women appreciate flattery. It's been a week since he's seen her, and he knows the dangerous one is back. As she steps off the plane, Chen Han foolishly greets her, saying he's glad she's back. She, however, merely frowns and coldly tells him, "You're great." Chen Han, flustered and unsure of how to proceed, tries to explain himself, but before he can get a word in, she kicks him hard, telling him to explain with his foot first. Realizing there's no way out, he takes the blow straight to the head. He admits he was wrong, but it's too late. He falls to the ground like a fool, a bucket crashing onto his head. Onlookers at the airport are shocked by the commotion. Witnessing the scene, casually remarks, "Seems he forgot that she's a black belt in Taekwondo." As the crowd starts recording, it becomes clear that a man is being publicly humiliated by his wife in broad daylight. After giving him a few more choice words, she tells him to go home, leaving Chen Han on the ground, Chen Han swearing vengeance on Zhao Yan. The scene changes to a cafe. Yuro says he was right. Her brother canceled their plans for the night. Zhao Yan replies that she figures her brother is a very busy man. Zhao Yan orders for both of them, and Yuro is impressed by how he knows everything she likes. Zhao Yan claims he has a talent for reading people, though in truth, he just stole all the memories from her brother. She's impressed and asks how she and her brother met. As they continue their romantic date, someone watches them from a distance. Eventually, Zhao Yan invites Yuro to his apartment, saying he wants to show her how his cat can do some tricks. She says she'll see that another day, and he offers to walk her home instead. It's a bit cold and eerie outside, but Zhao Yan reassures her, saying she doesn't need to worry because he's there. Of course, the fifth-generation gangsters show up. Yuro throws herself into Zhao Yan's arms, saying she's scared. The thugs charge at them. Zhao Yan, who have consumed a body-strengthening potion, easily dodges and kicks one, sending him crashing to the ground. The others are stunned as he takes down another thug, and the rest flee. The beating was so severe that Yuro even feels sorry for the thugs. Meanwhile, a man watching from behind a tree realizes that Zhao Yan is a member of the Life SWAT Club. A crowd begins to gather, recording the fight. Zhao Yan grabs Yuro's arm and tells her they need to leave. They spot someone getting out of a taxi and decide to take that one instead. Once inside the taxi, Yuro gives the driver instruction, but the driver suddenly seems to be going the wrong way. The driver says he doesn't know what's happening. It's like the car isn't responding. Zhao Yan suggests stopping before there's an accident, but the driver replies that he's not in control of his body. Zhao Yan starts suspecting someone in the car when they got in. Panicking, the driver says he's innocent and hasn't even gotten married yet. A while later, they stop in front of a strange, abandoned house, and the driver says it seems like they've arrived. Zhao Yan knows this is the work of someone from the Life Swap Club. Yuro asks if they're going to go inside. He says no, but as they start to leave, someone inside calls for help. Yuro tells Zhao Yan to ignore it, but she says they can't abandon someone like that. He knows it's an obvious cliché, but can't stop her. The blonde man hiding behind a tree thinks they've caught another newbie in their trap. As they enter the basement, someone inside continues calling for help. Zhao Yan and Yuro open the hatch, and Yuro says they need to check it out. As they walk down the stairs, they hear cries for help coming from a door at the end. When they open it, they're both startled to find a girl chained up, and several others collapsed to the ground, begging for help as they're finally being rescued. Yuro approaches, but notices they can't open the chains without a key. At that moment, they hear a strange noise, and Yuro realizes her phone has no signal. Suddenly, 3 wolves appear in the room, growling at Zhao Yan. He powers up and starts taking them down with his bare hands. The wolves don't stand a chance, and Zhao Yan even mocks if this was the whole plan. However, just then, Yuro stabs him in the back with a needle. The blonde guy enters, and Zhao Yan remarks that it was a good idea to use the dogs and take advantage of the chaos. The guy congratulates him, saying it's no wonder he's earned so many points on his first try. Zhao Yan thanks him for the compliment but quickly gets serious and says they can talk, but the guy questions if Zhao Yan thinks he's in a position to negotiate. The blonde guy mentions that next month is the annual Life Points competition within the club, where people can negotiate points from anywhere in the world. Of course, newcomers are the prime targets to steal points from. Zhao Yan dodges another needle and asks the guy if those needles are how he controls people's bodies. The guy replies that although Zhao Yan dodged, his friend wasn't so lucky. Meanwhile, Euro begins drinking something, and liquid starts dripping from her eyes. The guy then gives Zhao Yan an ultimatum: either become a servant or watch Euro die. The stakes have just been raised. Zhao Yan and Euro are in a real bind now.